Moving on to part 4 of the SEO course, writing SEO. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of how to actually write good SEO. First of all, formatting is very important for your SEO. We're going to cover that in detail. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the titles and the headings. Readability and style is also very important for your SEO. A lot of lawyers are great writers, but their SEO ranks poorly, and we're going to talk about why. And we're also going to talk about backend SEO, what that means, why it's important, and how to do it. So first of all, keyword research. Why does keyword research matter? Keywords are the words that people are going to type into Google in order to find you. So keywords can be general, like immigration lawyer in Los Angeles, or they could be more specific, like electric scooter laws in San Diego. Every keyword is a competition and every page is a competitor. So how to do keyword research? I recommend starting with 50 to 100 keywords that you want to rank for and building your SEO around these keywords. These are essentially going to be your practice areas, your location, and all of the related keywords. So the way that I recommend starting is to use a tool that allows you to enter your website URL and see the most closely related keywords. There are several tools that you can use to do that. Google Keyword Planner, Moz, Ahrefs, SEMrush, SE Ranking, Ubersuggest. You can use any of these tools or any combination of these tools. Once you've done that for your website, I suggest doing the same thing for your competitors' websites and seeing which keywords they're ranking for. So by combining those two lists of your keywords and your competitors' keywords, you should have a pretty comprehensive list of keywords to start building your SEO around. And a note on that, eventually you're going to want to rank for a lot more than 50 to 100 keywords, but this is just a place to get started. And then once you've written SEO for all of those keywords, you can repeat that process to get more keywords and keep expanding. So keep a list of all the keywords from your website and your closest competitor's website. You can use a free keyword rank checking tool from SEMrush, Ahrefs, or Backlinko to do rankings research. And these tools allow you to see which keywords you're ranking for and which ones you're not, and also to see which keywords your competitors are ranking for. And your goal is to rank for all of them. So one strategy, a competitive strategy for ranking for keywords, is to use long tail keywords. Using general keywords like personal injury lawyer, for example, that's going to be a very hard keyword to rank for because you're going to be competing against sites that have thousands of pages of SEO. So how do you compete against giant websites with thousands of pages of SEO? Well, you get more specific and you use long tail keywords. And long tail keywords are actually phrases that have 3 to 5 words, and they're more specific than simple keywords. So the more specific your keywords and key phrases are, the more likely you are to rank higher. So for example, it's going to be easier for you to rank for a long tail keyword that's very specific, like San Diego bicycle helmet law, than a more general keyword like bicycle law. Because for the general keywords, you're going to be competing against attorney directories and big companies like Nolo, LegalZoom, tons of backlinks, tons of SEO, and it's going to be difficult and expensive to compete with them. So the more specific and the more location specific you can get with your keywords, the better you're going to be able to compete against some of the bigger players. And that's especially true in high competition markets. Really, any big city is going to be a high competition market. So one key here is to use location keywords. Location is very important when you're using specific keywords. You want to be showing up in search results for clients who are looking for a lawyer in your area. If you're a lawyer in Pensacola, Florida, it doesn't do you much good if you're showing up in search results for clients in Eugene, Oregon. because those clients in Eugene are looking for someone local. And that's especially true in practice areas like personal injury and criminal defense, where you need a local lawyer who's going to be physically present to show up to court hearings. So make sure that your keywords and your key phrases include your location. You're not just a personal injury lawyer, you're a San Diego personal injury lawyer. You're not just an estate planning attorney, you're an estate planning attorney in La Jolla. The more granular and specific you can be with your location, the better. So moving on to choosing blog topics, this is an important concept to understand. There are two paths to writing relevant SEO. One is keyword relevancy, which is choosing a topic based on keywords like we just talked about. The other is idea relevancy, which is choosing a topic based on trends rather than keywords. So for example, we had a client who was a personal injury lawyer in San Diego. This client was doing no social media, no pay-per-click advertising, no digital marketing whatsoever aside from SEO, and they were only publishing 1 to 2 SEO articles per month. So how could we possibly compete against bigger law firms that are posting SEO every day and spending up to $100K per month on Google Ads? The answer is idea relevancy. We chose topics that were laser targeted on personal injury issues in San Diego. So, for example, a few years ago, several companies lawlessly unleashed hordes of electric scooters onto the streets of San Diego. Some people love them, but not surprisingly, there was a lot of issues with them, such as people leaving the scooters everywhere, including the middle of the sidewalk, which made the sidewalks inaccessible for people in wheelchairs. So we wrote a blog about electric scooter laws in San Diego. Notice a few things about that. One, the topic is very specific. Two, it includes location keywords. And three, it's targeted on a current trending issue. You could also say a novel issue. And because we were so targeted and we were so specific, we were able to rank number 1 on that keyword in a super competitive market. So, a second example. There's recently been a boom in e-bikes, electronic bikes, and again, a lot of people love them, but there's problems with them. For one, the batteries were catching on fire and burning down people's houses, and people died in these fires. So what's this? It's a novel issue to write about. So what did we do? We wrote an article targeting this issue, and we got ranked for it before anyone else did. So another way to rank, aside from keywords, is to write about novel issues. The important thing there is you write about issues that your clients are searching for. So if you're wondering what to write about, here is a list of blog topics. I recommend saving these 2 slides and keeping them handy. That's this slide and the next slide. That way when you sit down to write, you don't have to think about what to write about. I've already given you more than enough ideas right here. Here's 5, and the next slide, which is this one right here, gives you some more ideas. So save these slides, write down these ideas for blog topics, keep them handy, and that way you'll never have to spend a whole lot of time thinking about what to write about, because these should give you some pretty good ideas. Moving on to titles and headings. The title of your article should include keywords and location keywords, like San Diego car accident lawyer. And your headings should also include keywords, related keywords, and location keywords. Formatting is very important. You want to pay specific attention to formatting when it comes to the headings and the titles. So your article should be clearly organized with the headings H1, H2, and H3. And you should be using a heading for every paragraph or two. So the title of your article should be labeled as H1, every heading should be labeled as H2, and every subheading should be labeled as H3. This helps Google understand the organization and the intent of your article. don't underestimate the importance of labeling your headings because they carry significant weight with Google. You don't want your article only to rank for keywords, you want it to rank for related keywords as well. So include related keywords in the headings and subheadings to boost your rankings. And again, use headings often. Use a heading for every paragraph or two, maybe 3 paragraphs if the paragraphs are small. So why use so many headings? Using lots of headings makes the article, one, easily readable and scannable, which means that it'll have a lower bounce rate. People are more likely to stay on the page and read the whole page. And 2, it helps Google categorize your article and put it in relevant search results. So if you're not sure about which words to use in your headings, try Googling each heading and subheading and checking the autofills. The autofills are the most common searches related to those keywords, so those will give you some good ideas for which words to use. And it's a good idea to phrase headings as questions because people often enter search terms in the form of questions. You don't have to make every heading the form of a question, but it is a good idea to do that. So again, using related, not just your keywords, but also related keywords. You want to use those related keywords in the body of the text and also in the headings because you want to rank for the related keywords as well. So what do I mean when I say related keywords? Here's an example. So instead of just using car accident, you would also want to use auto accident, vehicle accident, and other similar words like that in the headings and body of the text so that you'll rank for all 3. And yeah, again, you want to use location keywords in your headings instead of just using a heading like bicycle safety, do bicycle safety in San Diego. That's going to help you show up in local search results. And again, just to reiterate, your titles and your headings are your client's search phrases. So you want your titles and headings to match the phrases that people are going to search for. And the closer you match your titles and headings to the phrases that people are searching for, the better your SEO is going to be. Next up, we're talking about readability and style. This part is important, and this is where a lot of lawyers fail when it comes to SEO. Your SEO is not a law review article. It's not written for lawyers and judges. It's written for people who oftentimes have little or no knowledge about the law and maybe have never hired a lawyer before. So in this section, we're going to talk about how to make your writing accessible so that your ideal clients can understand what you're talking about. Confused people are not going to buy from you. You want clarity and simplicity in your writing. So here we're going to talk about how to do that. First, formatting. We already talked about formatting, but just remember proper formatting, specifically labeling the headings, helps Google, 1, determine the intent and purpose of your article, and 2, categorize your article for relevant search results. So just remember those headings are super important. Use the H1, H2, and H3 tags in your blogs. Use them often, every 1 to 2 paragraphs, and include keywords and related keywords in those headings. The length of your article. This part is important and we've already talked about it a little bit. Your practice area pages should be 2,500 to 5,000 words. They should mimic a sales conversation and answer every possible question that a person could have about that practice area. In highly competitive markets, your practice area pages may need to be up to 10,000 words to dominate local search results. So if you're wondering how long the article should be, Google the practice area, such as San Diego brain injury lawyer, see who's ranking number 1, see how long their article is, and then write an article that's longer and more comprehensive than that. And you're going to use that same technique for blogs. So your blogs should be at least 2,000 words. But again, if it's a blog topic that's highly competitive, you might need to use more than that. So if you want to know how many words to make your blog, type the title of your blog into Google, run a search, see who's ranking number one, and then write an article that's longer and more comprehensive than that so you can take that spot. In most cases, you're going to have to write a blog that's at least 2,000 words to dominate local search results on that topic. However, don't feel obligated to try and get it over 2,000 words. It's better to have 1,500 tightly written words than 2,000 rambling words where the most important information gets lost. Shorter blogs like 1,000 to 1,500 words may be okay for narrow topics, but in general, your longer, comprehensive blogs are going to be better able to dominate search results. If you're wondering how long your other pages should be, like your homepage, your About Us page, your FAQ page, here are some suggestions. These aren't hard, fast rules. These are just kind of optimal ranges. Don't feel confined by these numbers. If you want to use more words, then use more words, but these are good ranges to start with. Now we're going to go into readability. Making an article easy to read is actually not that hard if you use short words, short sentences, and short paragraphs. And here are the details about what that means. Use short words. Use the simplest and most direct words possible. Use as few syllables as possible in the words. That's a good tip right there for keeping your words short. Avoid words with 4 syllables or more. Avoid using legal jargon, and avoid using technical jargon. The goal here is to be understood, so you want to explain things clearly and concisely in plain language. Also, use short sentences. The sentence length greatly impacts the readability, so 75% of your sentences should be 20 words or less. If you have long sentences, break them down into shorter ones. The shorter your words and sentences are, the more readable the article is. And you want all of your blogs and articles on your website to be as reader-friendly as possible. And last, use short paragraphs. Each paragraph should be 3 to 5 sentences, maybe 6 to 7 max, and 150 words or less. So you can keep your paragraphs short by writing about a single topic. Each paragraph should be about one topic, and divide longer paragraphs into 2 shorter ones, or use subheadings to break the paragraph down even further. Readers and search engines like short paragraphs because they're easy to read and scan, which leads to a lower bounce rate, meaning that more people are going to stay on the page and read the whole thing. Avoid lists and bullets. Use bullets minimally. Instead of using bullets, make each bullet a subheading and write a short paragraph about it, even if the paragraph is only 1 or 2 sentences. This will improve the article's readability and search results. Also, avoid long lists separated by commas. Nobody wants to read a laundry list separated by commas. They're difficult to read and to digest. Instead, turn each item on the list into a heading and write a short paragraph about it. It doesn't need to be more than 1 or 2 sentences. Just elaborate the concept a little bit instead of just giving a long list. Next readability tip is avoid passive voice. Using passive voice is an absolute style killer, and it makes your writing difficult to read. So what do I mean by passive voice? Bob was hit by Bill. That's passive voice. That's not what we want. Bill hit Bob. That's active voice. Notice that it's more clear and more concise. It's easier to read. That's what we want. So always use active voice when writing SEO. And to change the passive voice to the active voice, you change the verb and switch the actor and the receiver. So for example, going back to the example we just used, change Bob was hit by Bill to Bill hit Bob. And you can use Grammarly. Grammarly is a good tool for detecting passive voice and eliminating it. Another way to make your article more readable is to use transition words. Transition words are words that show the relationship between phrases, sentences, and paragraphs, and you can think of them as the glue that holds your article together. And what do I mean by transition words? Well, here are some common ones. And, but, so, because, therefore, thus. These are all words that show relationships between thoughts. So using transition words, it makes your article easier to read and understand. And the easier that it is to read and understand, the higher it's going to rank. And without transition words, your article might sound disjointed or just read like a collection of sentences rather than complete thoughts. And using Grammarly or a grammar checker like Grammarly can be helpful in letting you know where to add transition words. And last but certainly not least, every page should have a call to action. We've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. Your practice area pages and your blogs should all have calls to action. Make sure that it's in there. Usually we place the call to action at the end of each practice area page and blog. Depending on the design of your website, you can also put the call to action in the sidebar. And again, when we're talking about calls to action, it's a prompt to make the reader call, email, complete an intake form, make a purchase, or do something to make an appointment with you. The call to action is how your website converts readers into clients. Now, if you want to know how readable your article is, there's readability scores, and you can check your readability score with Microsoft Word, or you can also use Grammarly or another grammar checking software. Here is a link right here which will show you how to check your readability score with Microsoft Word, so you don't need any outside tools. Always remember that your article should be readable by an 8th grade student, so keep it as simple as possible. Eliminate legalese and technical jargon, write in plain English. So if you check your readability score and your readability score is poor, some things that you can do to improve it: use shorter word sentences and paragraphs, eliminate legal jargon, change passive voice to active voice, and use more transition words. Those techniques will simplify your writing and make it easier to read and understand. One more note here: for blogs, it's good to include a sources section at the end of the blog. A lot of times your blogs are going to require extensive research, and adding a sources section at the end of the blog with links to the sources will help your SEO. However, you only want to cite authoritative sources like .gov and .edu websites. News articles and things like that don't need to go into the sources section. You only want the highest quality sources there. So that's where you're going to cite to relevant statutes, forms, government agencies. That's where you're going to put code, for example. So don't include internal links in the sources section. The sources section is only for authoritative external links. And note that we typically don't include a sources section on practice area pages. We only use a sources section on blogs to help boost the authority of the article. And again, very important, we're only citing the highest quality sources like .gov and .edu websites. Next up, proofreading. So why are we spending time talking about something as banal as proofreading? Well, because it matters. Your writing should reflect the quality of the service of your law firm. So publishing articles with typos, grammatical errors, and other types of mistakes erodes client trust. Carefully proofread your article before you publish it. If you can, have someone else proofread it for you. If not, use Grammarly or another grammar checking software to help you. If you do use Grammarly or a grammar checking software, don't just blindly accept all of their suggestions. Go through them one by one and make sure that their suggestions are accurate. Grammarly a lot of times will give you great suggestions, but it also sometimes might give you bad ones. So review each suggestion individually. Don't just accept them blindly, and make sure that you're carefully proofreading every article before you publish it. Moving on to originality. Originality is important for Google rankings. Your search results suffer when you take content from other websites or from your own website. So again, we're referring to plagiarism and cannibalization. Use Grammarly to check for plagiarism. Use SiteLiner to check for cannibalization. Do that for every article before you take them live. Internal and external links. We've already talked a bit about these, but it bears repeating to talk about them again. Use at least one internal and one external link in every article you publish. That includes practice area pages and blogs. Building an extensive network of links on your website improves the Google rankings and search results. Use as many internal links as possible to your other articles, but don't link stuff. And by link stuffing, I mean just trying to cram as many links in as possible. External links. So external links to authoritative sites establish credibility and build trust with Google. So external links to trusted sites are good for your SEO. You want to link to relevant statutes and legal authorities in your articles. Again, only high quality trusted sites like .gov or .edu sites. Talking about link text, you want to use concise link text. Long link text can confuse Google and your readers and also cause functionality issues. So keep your link text to 4 words or less and use the minimum necessary words. However, you also want to make your links as descriptive as possible and provide as much context as possible. Google assigns value to context, so giving context helps your rankings. And the context helps Google understand the purpose of the link and the article. So you want to be brief, but be as descriptive as possible. Now, when I was talking about link stuffing, that means every link should be on topic and add something to the article. Don't just cram as many links into the article as possible thinking that it'll help SEO, because it won't. Search engines penalize for link stuffing, so use links often, but only when it makes logical sense to do so, and only when the link is really truly adding something to the article. An important note on your external links is that make sure that your external links open in a new tab. Otherwise, it's going to register with Google as people leaving your site. One final note about links before we move on is make sure that all of the links on your website work and are up to date. As I already mentioned, you can use Screaming Frog SEO Spider tool to do that quickly rather than going through each link on your website one by one, because that will take a lot of time and resources that you could dedicate to other things. But it is important to have all of your links working properly. Photos. Every article you publish should have a featured image that's directly related to the written message. The key here is that the photo should be of professional quality. Don't use some goofy AI image. If the image looks amateurish, it creates a bad impression. So your writing should reflect the quality of your law firm, and the images should too. And the images should be consistent with the style of the other images on your website. It should be clear, centered, properly focused, and uncluttered. You can find professional images for free on Pexels and Pixabay and other free stock image websites if you need images. Backend SEO. So for editing your backend SEO, if you have WordPress, you do this by installing a WordPress SEO plugin. 2 of the most popular ones are Yoast and Rank Math. I personally use Rank Math. And again, when we're talking about backend SEO, this is what we're talking about. The alt text for photos, indexing and site mapping, keyword density, tags, title readability, Google snippets, URLs, metadata, and if you use a WordPress plugin, you'll be able to edit all of these within the WordPress plugin to optimize your page for backend SEO. So what is alt text? Alt text is a brief description of the contents of images and graphics. And the idea is to add alt text that describes the image in enough detail that someone would know exactly what's in the image without being able to see it. So alt text allows visually impaired people to know what's in a photo without seeing it. And web accessibility helps with SEO, and Google rewards it. So a note here is include keywords in your alt text for best results. The alt text helps your SEO, and including the keywords in the alt text helps it even more. Another note is that you don't have to use words like image or photo in the alt text because Google already knows that it's an image or a photo by the file type. A very important note about backend SEO is indexing and site mapping. Indexing and site mapping are 100% necessary for your SEO. If your page hasn't been indexed by Google, then it's as though it doesn't even exist for search results. So every time you publish a new page, you have to have Google index it. And you'll do this through Google Search Console, or if you're using an SEO plugin like Rank Math, you can index the page directly from WordPress without having to go through Google Search Console. And don't wait to index your pages. Index them right away, because if they're not indexed, it's like they don't. It's possible to index many pages at once by submitting a sitemap to Google Search Console instead of a single URL. Chances are, unless you're very technologically savvy, you'll want a developer to help you create an accurate sitemap for you instead of trying to do it yourself if you want to index a lot of pages at once. And here is a link for how to do that. Another key element of your backend SEO is measuring the keyword density. Keyword density is the number of times your keyword appears in an article compared to the number of words in the article. So if your keyword appears too few or too many times in the article will rank lower. And the optimal keyword density is 1 to 3% of the article, and you can measure it with an SEO plugin like Rank Math rather than doing it manually. If your keyword density is too high, replace the keywords with synonyms. Synonyms don't count towards the keyword density, and they'll help you rank for related keywords. The next element of backend SEO is tags. Tags are bits of code that describe your content to search engines and help them categorize the article. And again, you'll add those in the back end of your article using an SEO plugin. I use Rank Math. Good tags to add are your keywords, your related keywords, and location keywords. The title tag is the title of your article, and it's the most important line of the whole article. Every single word of your title should be carefully chosen. And here are a few tips for optimizing your title. The biggest one is to type a few primary keywords into Google and check the autofills. The autofills are the most common searches related to those keywords, so the autofills will give you good ideas of what to title your article. Again, using your location and the title of your blogs and your practice areas is a good idea. It helps Google define the purpose of the web page and connect you to the right audience, which is the local audience, and helps you optimize for search results within your geographic area. Next element of backend SEO is Google snippets and meta descriptions. Google snippets are descriptions of your article that appear underneath the title of the article in search results. So the snippet is a short description of the article. It should describe the contents of the article convincingly enough and in enough detail to get readers to click on your article instead of someone else's. So the Google snippet or meta description is very important because the reader is going to type in their search, get a bunch of search results, scan the titles of the articles, and then read the description of the article to find the most relevant one. So if your Google snippets are not optimized, chances are people are not going to click on your article, and they'll go to a competitor's article instead.